Welcome to today's News Explainer. Today is August 4th, 2026, and we're breaking down the latest official updates from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. We've actually got a pretty substantial amount of ground to cover today across a few different departments, so let's just jump right into the facts. Here's a quick look at what's on today's agenda. We'll be looking at some historic church growth statistics, going over the major August leadership transitions, and finally diving into some spiritual insights from this week's study of Queen Esther. All right, let's start with Section 1, Historic Church Growth Statistics. So we just got to look at the newly released statistical reports, and they give us a really clear, factual view of the church's trajectory from 2023 through the end of 2025. And I have to say, the data reveals some truly historic milestones. Get this, in 2025, there were exactly 385,490 convert baptisms globally. Now, that's not just a standard annual increase. That actually sets a brand new all-time record for the church. To put that into historical perspective for you, this number firmly tops the previous high of 330,877. And that old record, that was established more than 3 decades ago, back in 1990. So this record-breaking figure really highlights an accelerating global engagement. It shows us significantly expanding reach for the church's message across a lot of different international regions. And, this expansive growth, it extends directly to the church's missionary force as well. Earlier this year, the church hit a record high of 88,500 full-time missionaries serving worldwide. That easily surpasses the previous all-time high we saw back in 2014. Now, according to church leaders, this 2026 surge is largely being driven by the first major wave of 18-year-old sister missionaries officially entering the field. Lowering the missionary age requirement for women was a historic demographic shift, and we're seeing now that it's a policy change that clearly continues to reshape the missionary field, bringing this amazing wave of new, dedicated volunteers into active service. Of course, an unprecedented membership surge like that has to be accompanied by steady administrative and infrastructure growth to support all those rising numbers. Looking at the data between 2023 and 2025, total church units, meaning individual wards and branches, increased from 31,490 up to 32,046. On top of that, dedicated temples in operation grew from 180 to 204 during that exact same period. These figures are really highlighting a concrete, steady expansion of the church's physical footprint and its local organizational structure all across the globe. It basically ensures that the growing membership has the facilities and the local leadership they need for both worship and administration. Moving on to Section 2, August Leadership Transitions. So, August 1st, 2026 marked a pretty significant date for church administration. We had several new presidencies and area leadership assignments officially become effective. In the presidency of the 70, Elder Benjamin M. Z. Tai officially begins his new service. He's stepping into this crucial role to replace outgoing Elder S. Mark Palmer. Elder Tai was originally sustained as a General Authority 70 back in April 2019, and he brings some really extensive global administrative experience to this governing body. It marks a very important shift in leadership for the presidency as they oversee areas all around the world. Now, Elder Palmer's departure from the presidency coincides with him being granted emeritus status. And just for a little clarity here, emeritus status basically represents an honorable conclusion to full-time active service for general authorities. Elder Palmer is actually among 7 General Authority 70s who are retiring from active service this month. The others include Elder Craig C. Christensen, Elder Eduardo Gavarret, Elder Brooke P. Hales, Elder William K. Jackson, Elder Eric W. Kopishke, and Elder Peter F. Muers. When you put it all together, this highly esteemed group represents nearly 95 years of combined, dedicated service as General Authority 70s. They are certainly leaving behind a profound legacy of leadership. Over at the administrative level, we're also welcoming the incoming Primary General Presidency, who officially took the reins on August 1st. President Rosemary K. Chiboda is now leading the organization, serving alongside her counselors, Sister Nina M. Garfield and Sister Teresa A. Collins. This marks the transition from outgoing President Susan H. Porter's administration, which has served so faithfully over the past 4 years. The new presidency has already expressed a really deep commitment to continuing the vital mission of the primary organization, which, as we know, is focused on guiding and nurturing millions of children worldwide in their faith and development. Additionally, the first presidency has called Grant Anderson to serve as a new member of the Sunday School General Advisory Council, where he'll be assisting the Sunday School General Presidency. Brother Anderson brings an incredible wealth of practical and administrative experience to this role. His background includes a remarkable 40 years of professional work with seminaries and institutes of religion. Honestly, it's that extensive 4-decade tenure in religious education that validates exactly why this appointment is so critical for the Advisory Council. On top of that, he brings some really valuable perspective from his past service as a stake president and as a full-time missionary in the Columbia-Cali mission.
And that brings us to Section 3. Come, follow me, Esther.
Turning our attention to this week's Come Follow Me curriculum, we're focusing on the Old Testament book of Esther. The narrative of Queen Esther provides such a profound study in personal courage, faith, and really recognizing divine timing. When discussing her story and how it applies to us today, Elder Neil L. Anderson emphasized the core message of spiritual destiny. Quoting that famous line from Esther chapter 4, "Thou art come for such a time as this," Elder Anderson urges individuals to believe it and embrace it. The underlying message here is that each and every person is placed on earth right now for a specific divine purpose. Relief Society General President Camille N. Johnson also highlights Esther's tremendous act of faith. To save the Jewish people in Persia, Esther had to approach the king uninvited. Now, that was a direct violation of the law, and it was punishable by death. President Johnson notes that Esther was willing to let the Savior write her story, even though, through the lens of mortality, the ending may have been tragic. That is just a powerful reminder of absolute trust. It really demonstrates a willingness to let God prevail, completely regardless of the immediate mortal consequences or the personal danger involved. Building right on that profound concept, Elder Cyril Schmeil teaches that Esther's placement was by no means an accident. He states that the Lord placed Esther in the king's house for a purpose. And the crucial point to take away here is that the Lord operates the exact same way with us today. Elder Schmeil notes that the Lord puts us where we can help to fulfill his purposes, whether that's in our unique individual circumstances, our families, or our local communities. We are intentionally positioned so that we can be effective instruments in his hands. This brings us to a compelling final thought as you reflect on this week's curriculum. When you think about Esther's profound bravery, her trust in divine timing, and her willingness to sacrifice everything for her people, ask yourself this: how will you show courage for such a time as this? Well, that wraps up today's update. We hope this broadcast has provided clear and helpful insights into the latest church statistics, leadership changes, and curriculum. Please support us by following, liking, and sharing. Thank you, and see you tomorrow.